Welcome to Sipping Success, the ultimate podcast for all things beverage and alcohol. We are here to quench your thirst for insights, analysis, and a splash of entertainment. Get ready to dive into the world of beverages with us. From the latest trends to in-depth discussions with industry leaders, we've got it all covered. Whether you're a connoisseur or a curious sipper, Sipping Success is your go-to guide. Join us as we uncork knowledge, raise a glass to innovation, and help you elevate your brand to new heights. So grab your favorite drink, sit back, and let's sip success together. Tune in to Sipping Success and drink in the wisdom. Cheers. This podcast is brought to you by Mushroom Media, the go-to digital media agency for all things marketing. From crafting captivating campaigns to decoding social media sorcery, Mushroom Media is here to empower your brand and help you scale. So whether you're brewing, distilling, or concocting the next big thing, Mushroom Media has a solution for you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Sipping Success podcast. We're excited to have Todd Baldwin, the co-founder of Crafted, on this week's episode. Crafted helps CPG brands drive retail sales through short-form video campaigns. They've helped household name brands like Edmunds and Bulletproof launch large-scale drive-to-retail campaigns through their tech platform and vetted creator network. They remove the hassle of creator sourcing and pricing and usage negotiation, and also product fulfillment by having best match creators opt into campaigns for agencies or brands to activate in just minutes. So looking forward to a very interesting conversation here with you, Todd. Welcome to Sipping Success.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. So let's get into this. There's a lot that we want to know about your company here. Before we really dive into Crafted, kind of a two-part question for you. Can you give us a little bit of your history and then ultimately what led to you co-founding Crafted?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background, I'm originally from Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm a proud, Southern boy. I went to school in the Northeast, and after I graduated from Princeton, I essentially was really excited to kind of connect with like my roots once again. And I think that, food is a very big part of the culture that I come from in the South. And so I wanted to start something, in that space. And so I started essentially Twitch for Cooking with my co-founder in 2021. We kind of met through an investor, and we had this joint vision for a place where we could celebrate, food and culture through live stream recordings of people cooking recipes from their kitchens, right? And so obviously the journey has kind of taken a lot of twists and turns since then, and we're doing something a little bit different now. So I'm happy to tell you a little bit about what that journey looked like for us. So yeah, so we kind of we saw the success that Twitch had in bringing together the gaming community to watch live stream sessions. We had the similar idea for food, and so we had home cooks that would come on to streams, and they would make recipes, and then we would essentially go out and make brand partnerships where we would get them to place their products in the actual recipe itself, and then viewers could purchase those products from our live streams. So it was like a live shopping app. So we did that for a while, and we saw some modest success. We were able to bring a lot of people together. We had a lot of great streams, but we ultimately spoke to our customers, and they were saying that, hey, look, our customers being the brands, we're not getting enough out of this, right? We're the few views and the experiences are great, but we aren't getting any sales, right? And that's the bottom line for most businesses. So, we spoke to them, and we're like, okay, how can we best service you guys? What can we provide of value to you all? And what we heard from them in those conversations is that the recording of these live streams was really important. And the reason why is because TikTok was becoming a really prominent platform around that same time, right? So TikTok had become, it had become a sensation, among younger users during the pandemic. But brands were just starting to become aware of the fact that it could be a really strong marketing tool as well. It's not just a toy or a place for entertainment. And so they were like, we would like to chop up the recordings of those live streams and repost them on our TikTok accounts and try to grow organic views from there, right? And we're like, the light bulb kind of went off. And we're like, okay, well, like maybe we should just focus on just that. Let's focus on, essentially removing the friction that they were having with creating video content to post on their TikTok and other short form media platforms, right? And so we put out, a landing page which essentially demonstrated like the software that we were going to build that would allow us to, essentially generate video content and turn it around for them, within like a week or two, right? And within that was like a Thursday that we put the landing page up, and by the Saturday we had a couple $1,000s in like pre-order sales.
Oh, wow.
And we were like, okay, that's the light bulb for us, right? Like we were able to get people to get excited about this. We're able to get them to put their credit card behind it, and so like that kind of set us off on our current trajectory as a business. So we kind of reformed our entire business into a software that enables brands to connect with creators for the purpose of generating these videos that can be posted on TikTok and like Instagram Reels and other short form video platforms. So we started doing that for small, medium brands early on. So these are like emerging brands that, were kind of new to the space. And we did that for a while. And then we essentially, in December of 2022, started to work with like larger clients. And like, if the friction was pretty significant for these smaller brands that are only creating, like 2 or 3 videos at a time, you can imagine how challenging it is to manage a campaign with like 50 to 75 creators at a time, right?
Yeah.
And so, that definitely influenced our product a lot. During that time in early 2023, we also added influencer marketing to our repertoire. So it's not just about generating the video content, but can we also help you to distribute that content through the influencers that we have in our network that we've already pre-vetted. And we kind of came to that with a new approach, right? So historically, influence marketing has been very driven. The pricing has been very driven by creators, right? Creators essentially come in and they say, hey, look, this is how much I got from this brand, previously for a previous campaign. And so this is how much I'm going to charge in my media kit, right? Or they view the price that they charge as the beginning point of a negotiation for, going back and forth to figure out what, is a fair price to pay for a campaign. And we looked at, other forms of digital marketing, and that's not exactly how things are priced, right? Like things are priced according to output, right? So for, Facebook ads, you pay on a CPM basis. So you pay a certain price for 1,000 views. And we thought, well, what if we could bring those same conventions to, influencer marketing, right? And so that was like the key insight that we kind of been running with ever since. And so we have some really nice integrations with TikTok and Instagram that takes like historical performance, for influencers that are in our network. And we essentially give them a rate based off of that, right? So essentially what it works out to be is that we can ensure a certain CPM for our clients, which clients really respond well to. So so we've had an opportunity to work with like some really well-known brands, some of the ones that you mentioned in the intro, also Cinnabon, Jack Daniels, few Trader Joe's, Sam's Club. And so that's been a really, really great experience. And we're excited for the journey.
Wow. So you're able to, if I've got this right, you're able to really create real fact-driven pricing and deliver that to your clients, if I've got that right.
Exactly. And we also do some work on the back end as well. So after the influencer campaign has been launched, it's right now, if you're, a marketing agency, we also sell to marketing agencies as well. You essentially are running this campaign for a brand with 50 creators, and like, you need to go through each individual post and like, get the viewership from each and aggregate that information, like maybe a spreadsheet. We've kind of taken that work out as well by building some analytics and reporting features. And so essentially we allow brands to kind of view the aggregate data, right, for a campaign in real time, right? So we have new data points that are populated every single day. Okay, this is how many views this campaign has reached, on day 1. By day 10, how close are we to the viewership target that we set for this particular campaign? We have that all within a dashboard on our platform. So really excited about that piece as well.
Okay. And then, let's make sure we kind of cover some new things that you've mentioned to me. So I think you gave us a really good description of your network and, how creators, influencers, and even clients can interact with it. So you had mentioned, are there new upgrades or new advancements that have been made here recently?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that some things I'm really excited to talk about are the leaps that we've kind of made in terms of attribution, which is always a huge thing, right? So just as an overview, typically when you run, an influencer campaign or any kind of marketing campaign online, you want to know what the downstream effects of that those marketing dollars are.
Mm,
So how many sales did I drive, right? Or how many clicks did I drive to my website, things like that. I think that, there have been significant strides in terms of tools that have been built to do that pretty seamlessly in the e-commerce space. So like, most advertising platforms offer some sort of pixel solution, right? So Facebook, TikTok, Google, etc. However, in like the space that we've kind of carved out for ourselves, right? I mentioned that we kind of started out in food and beverage, and now we service any brand that markets online but sells in store. And those brands run into a very specific challenge, right? Which is like, how exactly do you track the downstream effects of a TikTok view for an in-store like brick and mortar purchase, right? And so that's like kind of something that we've kind of like double clicked into. We wanted to offer that as a solution. Like, we want to prove to our clients that, hey, look, we're not just hitting and exceeding our viewership target for the campaign, on TikTok, and we're not just, producing campaigns that have like lots of engagement, but we're also helping you to drive sales, right? Like in stores. Most of the clients that we work with, they have a newly launched product like on the store shelves, and they have 90 days to get to a certain sales velocity, right? So like, you need to sell, typically it's between like 3 and 5 units per store per week within the first 90 days in order to stay on the shelf. And we essentially are helping them to do that through this influencer marketing campaign, right? So there's a few things that we launched that in support of that, right? The first is an attribution feature. So, right now, I guess typically how it would work through our platform prior is that, you essentially create a video. We focus on a very specific type of content called drive to retail content, where we
mm,
have the influencers actually visit the storefront that the product is being promoted at in the video itself, so that they're actually driving people to that particular storefront to go and purchase the product. But we've taken a step further, and essentially we've added this tool that allows influencers to put a link in their link in bio that will lead to, depending on what the outcome is for the campaign, right? It could link to a store locator. It could link to an SMS rebate like page, and essentially that store locator, we can track how people are searching for certain locations and things like that, and how many clicks we're getting off of Instagram to that store locator lower down the funnel, right? And so that gets us like one step closer, right, to essentially establishing what the downstream effects are of like our marketing campaigns, right? As it relates to the SMS rebate thing. So
mm,
there are certain partners out there, like Aisle is one of them, where essentially they do this thing where they can offer certain discounts, like let's say a BOGO, for example, right? So you come off of Instagram or TikTok or wherever, you land on their page, you put in your phone number because they will essentially give you like a BOGO sale on a certain product. You'll go in the store, you'll purchase the product, and then you'll send a picture of the receipt back to the number that pertains to the rebate program, and they'll Venmo you out like the amount, right? For the BOGO, for the buy one, get one. And
okay.
so it's a win-win for the consumer and the brand. The win for the consumer is that they got the BOGO sale, so that they're getting discounted products. And the win
Yeah.
for the brand is that now we can tell, we can actually tie, a TikTok view to an actual sale in store because we have the receipt, we have the sales data, right?
Uh,
And so that's like something that our platform is now equipped to handle, like after this recent update, which is why I'm like super stoked about that. Another thing that we did, so we kind of noticed like as we were running our influencer campaigns, that like people were commenting on those posts and saying like, oh, like I want to, like, where do I find this? How do I buy this? Where can I find this? I want to try this. And we essentially we built a tool to essentially take all the comments for a particular campaign and analyze them for purchase intent. And then essentially give an overall score or a rating, right, of like how well like this is resonating with potential customers, and whether
mhm,
there's actual purchase intent from the people that are viewing these videos, right? So I think those things are super important. Another piece that's also important because we're in this omnichannel retail space is like hyper targeting around certain areas. So like for the most part, when you launch into new stores, you launch in like hyper specific regions. So you may launch like only in like, Cubs, right? Which is in the
Yeah.
in the Midwest, right? And so, or you might launch in like, like State of Rose, which is only in like, like California, that area, right? So like
Mhm.
essentially you want to be able to like target like your spend in those areas, which is easy to do from like, Facebook ad perspective. But what does that mean in influencer marketing, right? So we actually are now pulling in like audience data from like the influencers in our network so that you can see like, where the audience is located. And we're using that to like run more hyper targeted like regional campaigns like for our brand. So those are just a few of the updates that we've made recently that we're really, really excited about. Really excited to
Yeah,
see what that
that's
looks like
great.
going forward.
That's really great. I get a sense like you can get a sale for like a new client almost right away with that capability to do the buy one get one, right? You can
Exactly. Yeah.
people monetize TikTok right away, so that's great for everybody. And then all the other stuff, the hyper targeting and whatnot. So really interesting stuff. I do want to maybe take a step back for a moment because you gave us a good story about your history, and I'm always curious to know, like you as an entrepreneur, could you share with us maybe a particular change that you've had to adapt to over the years while building this company?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I kind of sort of mentioned, the major pivot we made from like, doing like live streaming to like short form.
Yeah.
So I think that, just to, I guess, give a sense of where things were like back at the beginning of the company in 2021, live shopping was all the rage, right? Like, there have been, lots of success stories coming out of like, China and other like countries where they were essentially getting a lot of people to hop on streams and like convert, like do this like, live commerce thing. And so that was something that we were super excited about. And we thought that, hey, look, let's try this on the US market, right? And I think that once again, we ultimately got to a point where we realized, hey, look, like people don't actually want to come off the platforms like, TikTok and Instagram to view like content. Like people are very happy with consuming content on those platforms, right? So then
Hmm.
the question kind of became for us, like, how can we make a change internally, right, to shift with this like market insight that we've had, right? So how can we promote content on TikTok, content on Instagram, as opposed to trying to drive traffic off of those platforms to our own, right? And so I think that was like probably one of the main shifts that we kind of had during our business. And then I guess similarly when we went to, influence marketing, right, from just generating content for people to put on their, on their branded social media pages to actually getting influencers to do this, right? Like that was something that we heard a lot about in like our customer calls, and like we're super, responsive to like what those needs were and like building something that would align with that.
Okay, interesting. And then could you also like share with us any challenges or obstacles that you've faced since your founding? If there's one thing in particular that sticks out that you might be proud of, it'd be like a challenge or obstacle that you've overcome again that you'd be proud of to mention.
Yeah, yeah. I think that one thing that I would say I'm super proud of has been like once again like just going back to how responsive we are to customer needs, right?
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of companies, they start out in the consumer space, they go down that route, they raise money, they burn through that money, and then they have to go bust. And so like I hate to go back to this and keep harping on it, but like that's something that we're super proud of, right? That we kind of we were in a position where we were in a business that was growing as by viewership and users, right? But ultimately was not solving like the problem that our customers had set out for us to solve. And something I'm really proud of is that we kind of overcame that challenge and found a way to not only overcome the challenge, do a pivot, but to utilize the same insights and the same things that we were doing in our business before to create this new business opportunity, right? And just for example, like, our network of creators, right? Like, the way that we got started, we already had built, a network of creators to do the live streams for us, right? And we essentially just borrow from that same network of creators to offer this like new solution in like the short form video space, right? So we
Hmm.
were able to kind of like pour over over that network of creators. And the same way we had already built like, relationships with, like people in the industry, like brands and customers. And so we're able to, like still utilize those same relationships and those same networks. Hey, like we were selling you guys placements on live streams. Now we're doing the short form video thing, and kind of pivoting like to utilizing those same relationships and pivoting them to the new product, right? And so like I would say like honestly that's probably one of the things that I would say I'm most proud of. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And then for your own business, and I feel like you've given us a little bit of a sense of this, of being responsive to your customer. But how do you use any sort of metric, or what kind of things do you use to measure success for Crafted for your overall business?
Yeah, so I mean, there's obviously the primary metric is always it's got to be revenue, right? And I
Yeah.
think outside of the fact that obviously we have like stakeholders and other people that have a vested interest in our business, and we owe it to them to make sure that revenue is a primary motivator. But also, it's my like opinion, my deeply rooted opinion, that revenue often correlates to value. So the
Mhm.
value that you provide to customers should in many ways, and I feel like most times will correlate with the revenue, right? And so the more value you provide to your customers, the more revenue you should be able to generate. And yeah, so that's kind of like why I think that that's probably like that is definitely the primary metric for how we measure success internally. And then I guess for myself personally, right? Like I really, really, really get a lot out of, empowering other small businesses. That's something that is like super important to me. And then also minority businesses in particular. So like, a lot of the brands and like companies that we work with, are female owned, right? Or minority owned, which is really great. And I think that for me personally, like I said, it definitely does something for me to be able to support small business owners that belong to those particular marginalized groups. So
Yeah, very good. And just a little bit of a shift here. How do you and your team keep up with the latest trends and developments in your industry?
yeah, that's a great question. I would say that we are super active on LinkedIn and Twitter. We made it a point to follow a bunch of the prospective customers that we want to work with or we have worked with in the past on those platforms.
Mhm.
So we're always in the know. So I think that, newsletters that we've attached ourselves to that belong to certain communities, like Startup CPG is one of them that comes to mind. And then like LinkedIn and Twitter is also another big piece. My co-founder actually is actually a very big influencer on LinkedIn, and then we'll have time at the end to kind of shout her out. But like
Great.
she got a badge recently as one of the top influencer marketing voices on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
she posts very regularly about, all the insights and things that we gather from our journey. And so, that's been super, super useful in helping us to keep, like kind of like our ear to the ground and keeping a finger on the pulse of what the industry is, what's top of mind for everyone. What are people talking about? What are people interested in? That sort of thing. And then obviously customer calls, right? So like we, are on a customer call like every single day.
Mhm.
Most of the days we have like, numerous calls that we're on, and like just being face to face with customers is something that is just hard to replace. And I think that through those conversations, you kind of understand, your customer on a deeper level. You understand, their pain points. You understand, their fears. You understand a lot of things, and I think that that's been super helpful. For us being able to draw insights from multiple calls, from tweets, from LinkedIn, like posts from these communities on Slack we've also joined, things like that, right?
Mhm.
And like figuring out how we can build, a solution that kind of addresses some of the problems that they're facing.
Yeah, great. And then with this next question, could you share with us like any particular partnerships or collaborations you've formed that have helped drive your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So we definitely have we've been working, closely, nothing formal yet, but we've been working closely with a couple of partners in the space who have been able to help us with a few of the things that we mentioned before, like the attribution piece, right? Like how can we
Mhm.
show, the downstream effects? We've had a couple of good partnerships with marketing agencies, for example, where they essentially do, ad buying and other digital marketing like services. They wanted to get into influencer marketing, but they don't have, the capability to build a network of their own, especially for like micro and nano influencers, which is where we focus. Like, so these are people that are like, let's call it sub a million like followers.
Okay.
It's hard to essentially build a strong network of a lot of those, right? And so, we've developed strong relationships with them where they kind of like use us as the service provider for their marketing agency, to provide this influencer marketing service, right? And provide that automation. I think all those things have been definitely super helpful for us, like throughout the course of running our business for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And so, if you're just joining us or have caught us kind of midway through here, we're talking to Todd Baldwin on this episode of Sipping Success. He's the co-founder of Crafted, and it's been a very interesting conversation finding out more about Crafted. And we are kind of down to our last couple questions here, but we'll start off with this kind of high level. What sort of think about like maybe your younger self or somebody coming up in the industry. What sort of advice would you give to kind of an up and comer, or again, think about maybe you're a younger version of yourself?
Yeah, I think there's two things that I would kind of say are probably the most important things. And like this obviously just comes from my journey, and like maybe that I was starting this company in in somewhat of a downturn economically. But the first thing is the tenet I would have is that revenue is not, the saying, winning isn't everything, it's the only thing. I kind of feel that way with revenue, right? Revenue is
Mm.
not everything, it's the only thing, right? Like revenue is like the lifeline of your company. It's what helps you to, reduce your burn and like, increase your runway as a founder. It's also, as I mentioned before, a key indicator of the value that you're providing and the thing that you're servicing the market with. Like if people are not paying for your solution, then you are not either A, you are solving a problem that does not exist,
Yeah.
or the solution that you are offering is not sufficient enough to solve the problem that they truly have, right? And so that's the first thing. Like, I think in all that you do and everything you do, ask yourself the question, how does this, increase my primary metric, which is revenue, right? And then I think the second thing is iteration. I think that sometimes in entrepreneurship, like there's this idea of, the visionary, right? The person that, kind of comes into the space and like has all the answers and builds the perfect product without any customer feedback or any outside like noise or views. And like that oftentimes, most of the time, is just not correct, right? Like it's an iterative process, right? Like you have an idea, you build it out, you test it, and then you analyze the results, and then you do it again, and so
Yeah.
I it's like that's something that I would always, that I would love to remind my younger self and like or younger people that are new to starting businesses or anything really, is that every single week, every single month, you should be testing something. Like you should be doing
Mm.
something different. In every department of the business, you're testing something, you're trying to improve something. And like really being intentional about that and like writing it out. So at the end of every month, my co-founder and I, we get together and like we say, okay, like this is what we learned in like the last month. What new things do we want to test in this upcoming month? And what are we going to learn from that? And then reiterating on that. And I think that is like a super helpful exercise to make sure you're super intentional about that iteration. And it's hard to iterate without in the absence of data. So data is
Yeah.
important. So like customer conversations, things like that. And then also measurement, right? Like you need to be measuring the output of the things that you're testing. And those are the two, I guess, core pillars of iteration.
I really love what you said about just being in a constant flow of testing new things, and you made it sound like you guys kind of do it in monthly segments. I got to believe also, like in terms of the team, it really just sometimes you can kind of get, no matter what stage you're at, you can get complacent, whether you're
Right.
highly successful or not, or somewhere in the middle. That alone has got to be kind of almost like a non-threatening way of just kind of keeping your mind active towards something,
Right.
towards a goal. I really like that.
Absolutely.
All right, and then last up here, it's time for just some really solid self-promotion. Where can people interact with you online? So think about like any social media platform, LinkedIn. Let's have you talk about that, and then your website and anything else that you'd want to mention where people can interact with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the best way to interact with our company is primarily through our website.
Okay.
So our website, usecrafted.com. That's use like the verb, and then crafted like the company name. And we have a lot of information on there, including like our ultimate guide to influencer marketing, which kind of details all the specifics, 0 to 1, right? For what you need to start and launch, influencer marketing campaign. And then secondly, I would say my co-founder, her LinkedIn, she's very, very active there. She posts almost like daily, if not daily, on that platform. Her name is Sarah Nesheim. She's the co-founder of Crafted. So I would definitely follow her on LinkedIn, and that is a great way to stay involved with our company. You can follow me on Twitter, so TBALD Junior, JR is my handle.
Okay,
And
great.
that's probably the best way to stay in contact with us. If you go to our website, you can also join our newsletter where we send periodic
Okay.
updates, with new blog posts and, new product updates and that sort of thing as well. So, yeah.
And then just to follow up to that, if anybody had anything, like if they wanted to drill down, and like if anybody out there listening would, if they're sparked by an idea and want to like maybe work with you or partner with you on something, is there also like an email address that you could send people to?
Absolutely, absolutely. So you can contact me via email at todd@usecrafted.com. So just my first name at the website for our business. So todd@usecrafted.com.
Okay, well, great. Well, thanks for all that information. We'll include it also in the show notes at the bottom so people can grab that easily. But very helpful to know how to reach out and get in touch with you. Thanks, Todd. We really enjoyed this episode. Very interesting learning about Crafted. And thank you all out there for joining us for another episode of Sipping Success. And again, we've been talking with Todd Baldwin. Todd, have a great week and thanks for everything.
Same to you. Thanks again.
All right. Well, there you heard it. And again, thank you all out there for joining us. You have listened to the latest episode of Sipping Success. Until next time, I'm your host, Casey Hawkinson. Thanks.
And that's a wrap on another insightful episode of Sipping Success, brought to you by Mushroom Media. We hope our discussions have left you thirsting for more knowledge in the world of beverages and alcohol. Stay connected with us on social media for updates. And remember, the journey to success is best enjoyed one sip at a time. Keep exploring trends, connecting with leaders, and scaling your brand. Until our glasses meet again, cheers to your continued success. And may your cups always runneth over with inspiration. We'll catch you in the next episode.